we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to school board meeting of the Monadnock School District. I see we have a robust audience. I think this might be my stand timer that I'm waiting on. We are going to start public comments. According to our policy, which is placed on the podium there, we use the first 15 minutes for public comments. Thank you. Each speaker can have 3 minutes, unless the board chair grants more. Blue is 3 minutes, so we'll be being a little more diligent about that. In most cases, I will be very lenient about the 3 minutes, unless in case we have folks who have some extra things to say. But if there are several people who have signed up to speak, then we'll be sticking strictly to the 3 minutes. Laura, do we have anyone who signed up for public comments now? I see we don't have a student representative here. No? No student representatives report. This evening, we don't have any meeting things that specifically require board action, so we'll move into matters for information and discussion. That's me again. I have sent around the board self-assessment tool a couple of times. I've gotten only a few back. Looks like this. Can I just get some nods about whether we intend to do this, or is it just something we're not interested in? Because there's nothing more exhausting than trying to lead a group that doesn't want to be led to do something like this. So
you got my comment. I don't intend to do it.
Neil doesn't intend to do it. Okay. If you like the idea, smile. If you think this is just something we're not going to do, I mean, because my feeling is we've got 2 more weeks here as this board. And I feel like it's a good idea for us to assess ourselves, know how we're doing, so that when we have new folks come along, we can have some sort of direction. You know, if the board overall feels like we haven't achieved a certain process, or if we don't have any goals or direction, well then, gosh, let's figure that out about ourselves before we bring new people in. That's my stance. I feel like, just from looking at you all, that I'm gonna get a couple more. Might get one from Bob, maybe Betty.
Did you get one from me already?
I didn't see one from you.
Okay, I intended to.
I've got one here if you want it.
All right. Good, okay, so we'll have a few more, and we'll talk about it at the next meeting. We have some open board seats and also some open budget committee seats. And I just want to make sure that everyone is aware, thank you very much, Ms. Finn, of which seats are open right now, so that we can go out and try to get folks to help us fill these seats. We have 2 representatives from Swansea, and Rob Colbert and Brian Bohannon have filed for those 2 representatives from Swansea. Scott Peters is also running for re-election. 1 representative from Fitzwilliam, no one has filed for that. That would be Phyllis's seat. Phyllis decided not to run again.
We can still write her in.
We can still write her in, that's right. So if you know anyone from Fitzwilliam who wants to serve a term, please encourage them to run a writing candidate. Representative from Roxbury, I think, Nick, you are intending to.
I'm going to be a write-in. Yep. It's my style.
Yep, so Nick wants to be on the board.
I encourage anybody else in Roxbury who'd like to be on the board to also become a write-in.
For a 2-year term, we have 1 representative from Swansea. Brian will be vacating that one and running for the 3-year term. So if you know anyone who wants a 2-year term for school board in Swansea. 3 years? You want 3 years? Because you could run for the 2 years. You get right in for both. Let's see, 2 representatives from Swansea, 3-year term for the budget committee. Dan Kaufman and Kristen Goodenough are leaving the budget committee, and we've had 1, Jillian Exel, who is filing for the 2 seats. So we do need another representative for budget committee. I believe Dan Kaufman is running a write-in campaign. So if you like Dan, you might not want to encourage anyone to run against him. This is for the 2-year seat on budget committee. He wants to go back. He just didn't get a chance to file. Budget committee representative from Fitzwilliam, Wendy Martell, is leaving, so that will be vacant. And Adam Hopkins is running for reelection for representative from Troy. 3 more openings. Let's see, a 2-year term for Swansea on Budget Committee, and a 3-year term for Gilsum and Roxbury, both on Budget Committee. All right. It would be just wonderful if we could get all of those seats filled. Hi.
What happens if they're not?
Then we run short.
We don't have the selectmen fix them.
They can.
Eventually.
The selectmen could in most of the towns, but not Swansea. Yeah, Swansea, if somebody wants to be on the board, they have to be recommended by the other Swansea board members. All right. And I want to let the board know that per our last meeting, I was asked to set up a joint meeting between budget and board on our physical plant. That's set for March 27th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. That's a 4th Tuesday, which would have been on the Budget Committee's regular rotation if we were in season. They're used to meeting on 4th Tuesdays. We do have a policy meeting that ends at 6:00 p.m. on that same day. Neil?
I think the 327 is kind of premature. We'll go through a few items. We don't have a scope and objective yet. Should we know what the population forecast is from Southwest Regional Planning? Should we look at the plan that Dave L. and Jane F. put together first? How are we going to get the state to pay the 57%? There's already some obvious pro-cons that we already know. What did the last elementary school cost in New England? How many square feet and what was the population? What was the last elementary school built in New Hampshire? Cost per square foot, population supported. State mandatory items in school construction, and are they going to pay for them? Is this meeting that's going to be on the 27th a 25-member brainstorming thing when all those questions and more have to be answered?
I think that it will be 25 people coming up with a really solid list of questions that need to be answered, and you've got half of them right there, but I think that it's important for us all to figure out what do we want to know, how are we going to find out, and how do we move forward.
But we should know more of them before we go into the meeting.
So I chose the 27th because it's shortly after the new board and budget committee meetings are seated.
And we won't be doing anything with it until next January.
That could be.
That
But-
could be. The next warrant article is second week in January.
We need to have the meeting. It was voted upon by the board, and I set up the meeting because the
All
board
all he
instructed me to
said
set
was
up
he
the
wanted to
meeting.
meet with the budget committee, and I agree with him. But I'm saying it's too early.
If we get to the meeting and it takes us a half hour to put down a list of questions to which we want to have answers, then we'll have a half-hour meeting. In your board packets, you have the warrant article, the bond article for a new school that was from 2003-04. That was one of the things that was requested. The 2015 NESDEC study and their recommendations, and also the H.L. Turner building assessments, cost estimates. You've had those given to you in various forms. These are 3 critical pieces of information that we have already gathered in preparation for that meeting. Any other questions about meeting with the budget committee? All right, I'll turn it over to you, Lisa.
I'm going to ask Jody Peters to introduce herself first. She's going to be working at the Troy program tomorrow morning, so I just want to make sure we get her out of here at a reasonable hour. So, Jody, if you wouldn't mind just talking to us a little bit about what's happening in ACES, that would be great.
Yeah, Jody Peters. I originally was a site director at Mount Caesar for about 4 years, and then when Darlene left, I stepped into her spot. We have opened up Cutler program. It is separate from Mount Caesar now, and Troy just opened up on Monday. We're still working on completely staffing that program, so I'm there until we get it completely staffed. So I'll be there tomorrow morning, bright and early, and I will close it. And that's where we're at pretty much right now.
Well, thanks for opening up the Troy program, not just for my family, but because we've been waiting for a long time. I know a lot of people are very excited about that. Tell us more about Cutler. Were families waiting for that one to reopen as well?
I'm sorry?
How long was Cutler not open, and were there a lot of families anticipating that?
Color had a temporary program on its own like 2.5 years ago. So this is the first time it's ever opened. It opened up in November. And it's got a grant separate, well, it's the same but separate from Mount Caesar.
Yeah.
So when the grants went through, we were able to open up both Troy, which got a grant this year for the first time. It's good for 5 years. And Cutler's will be good for 5 years in Mount Caesar's.
Will you tell the board more about your hours and the clubs that you run and the sorts of activities that the children participated?
Sure. Programs open in the morning from 6 to school starting, which is usually between 8 and 8:10. In the morning, they have homework time, playtime, a breakfast time. In the afternoon, we open up when school is out. They usually have snack, go outside and play, get their energy out. Then we have clubs that go 45 minutes to an hour. It depends upon what the clubs are. We try to put ones that take longer together on the same day. And if there's some that's less, then we put those together in the same day. Homework time is generally around 5 o'clock-ish. If children have homework, we try to do quiet time activities for the kids that don't have homework so that the kids that need to concentrate can. And then 5:30 is open up for free play. Cutler's a little different. They get out of school, they get their stuff, they sit down, they do their homework, they go outside, and then they have their clubs. So that's pretty much how it runs at this point.
What kind of clubs do you run?
I'm sorry?
What are some of examples of the clubs that you've run in the past?
Right now, they have a lot of STEM activities because the grants are all based on STEAM. So at Mount Caesar, they do a lot of building, creating. They're doing a sensory club. And they're doing, they're called Kiva blocks, so they have to build cities and, they have to get the cities together, and this is your restaurant, and this is your apartment house, and that kind of thing. They do a lot of art activities. We have to do a social-emotional piece to it. I've just ordered the stuff that I needed. Actually, way back when Darlene was here, and I have 2 of the books. So they'll start that piece after vacation. We have catch games, which is just a lot of nobody wins kind of games where all the kids just get to play games and nobody's out. Cooking, those are the kinds of things we do.
Does anyone else from the board have a question for Jody? Betty?
Approximately how many kids are you servicing?
Let's see, I just go through my head here. I think we about have 100 together, about 100 total right now. I picked up when Troy moved out, within a week we had 3 new students. Cutler grew like 6 right off, boom, we had 6 new students. So I think as things grow, it'll grow even more.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you.
Drive safely. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to ask Lisa Spencer, if you want to come up and give us the overview real quick of the NEASC report, the 106-page report that I'm sure everybody has already read.
Cover to cover.
It's a light read we have here. So we did whittle it down to 101 pages, so it's smaller. So we did get, so the report you have is all of the standards that we get judged on from NEASC. And Mark Fries, our NEASC chair, writes the paragraph that you would have seen on accreditation and then for each individual indicators. And in the beginning, I think 15 or 16 pages, it'll explain to you which each of the indicators are. At the end of each indicator goes over recommendations, so areas on that specific topic we need to improve on, and accommodations. What happens now, so you and I emailed, what happens now? So the NEASC board meets in late March, early April. They don't have a specific date yet. After they meet, they take all of the final accreditation reports. They read through it. They give us a status. So it could be anywhere from full probation or full accreditation status to no accreditation, and everywhere sort of in between accreditation with, probation and areas to improve on. Lisa and I will receive a letter shortly after. I believe in about 2 to 3 weeks we'll receive a letter. She and I review that, and then we make a presentation to the board. I talk to the faculty, and we make it public knowledge at that point. So we should have our final status report, I'm hoping, by late before we go to April break. That's sort of my hope as to what we're looking for. There were some consistent pieces on areas that we had to improve on. There was nothing in this report, having been here from the last one 11 years ago to this one. There was nothing in the report that was surprising to me. I spent several hours on the phone with Mark Fries, the NEAS chair, or our chair for our specific school. He talked about how wonderful our kids were, how wonderful our building was. The community as a whole was supportive. He talked a lot about, us being able to get our feet off the ground and get our feet underneath us, because I've been here, and before me was somebody, and before me was somebody else. So a lot of the things that are inconsistent, he drew a sort of direct parallel to having inconsistent administration. But overall, if you get a chance to read it and want to read it, it's overall a really great report of our school. And one of the things he speaks really highly about is how well we collaborate, from board to Lisa to myself, and myself to faculty. So that's kind of where we are with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to read it, and I found it somewhere between inscrutable and opaque. I found no executive summary,
Yep.
no conclusion.
Nope.
And the thing that bothered me the most is that I understood the commendations and recommendations, but there was no hierarchy there. There was no attempt to say, this is what we see as most important.
Yep.
This is where you should begin working.
Yep.
So I guess we'll be asking the administration
Yep.
to filter it in that way, because the way it is now,
Yep.
this was good, this was,
So
work on it, but
I totally agree with you. So what I spent the weekend doing was I used Google Forms, and I wrote every accommodation we created,
bless you.
and every recommendation, and I put it into a Google form, and I pushed it out to our faculty and said, I need you to rank these. So look at these 6 recommendations. What do you think we're the best at, 1, 2, and 3? Look at the accommodations. Where do we need to start? I can, but I'm one voice, and I can't drag 100 people across the finish line. So they've started to. I can absolutely share it with the board, and you can give me your feedback. Here are the 6 accommodations for facility, which I think is standard 6. Where do you think these are? Where they say these are the 8 items I think we need to work on. Rank your top 3, and that's where we're going to start. So I started that process because they don't give you what they think. It's a very vague sort of overlay, and the process would be worth nothing if we didn't use what we got from it. So.
And some of that will come when they meet and they do the status review and determine, where we fall on that spectrum. There's typically a 2-year check-in where they'll create a bullet list of things that we need to address and respond to them that we've addressed. They don't tell us how to address them, but they'll expect a progress update in that time frame. And then sometimes there's another set of goalposts at 5 years.
I think it's 2, 5, 7,
Yeah.
and then you get prepped again for your next 10.
Right. So, but again, it won't be, they won't tell us how to do it. They'll tell us what we need to address, and we'll just need to provide the evidence that we've addressed it, and they'll determine if that evidence is sufficient. But I didn't see, to echo what Lisa said, nothing that surprised me. And having done been through a lot of accreditations, both in the school and as someone who's done visits and been a part of teams, overall, it's a very positive report.
Yep.
Winston?
When does the accreditation word come out, yes or no?
I'm hoping before April, that we'll have it before April break, at latest mid-May. Yep.
Have you begun to receive any input back from staff, or is that process not started yet?
No, I started it. I pushed out the survey on Sunday night, and I think as of this morning, I had 15 responses. Part of what I need to make sure is stressing also to paras and administrative assistants that this is a school-wide voice. This isn't just teachers. This is a school that's made up of admin assistants and administrators and paras and teachers. It's not just one specific section. And giving them time to do it because there's a lot of accommodations, recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. In your packet, you had, I think you ended up with 2 copies of the letter to the editor that came out last week, I think. And I just wanted to make sure that you all had that, since we had discussed and it had been requested at the meeting on February 3rd. I also included in your packet that it was a little packet of information titled Monadnock Regional Cooperative Parent Involvement in Special Education Survey Results. And I included those because they reflect a decent increase in parent response rate to that special education survey. Oh, thank you. Okay. And so when one of the indicators that gets looked at when we look at compliance for special education is parent involvement, and this survey is one of the measures that they use to determine our level of parent involvement. So the fact that we saw a nice uptick in the response rates was worth celebrating. So that was the purpose in including that in your packet. The other thing that has happened, which didn't make it into your packet, Kathy wasn't able to be here tonight to talk to this briefly, but we've talked a lot about our compliance status and how we've worked to bring ourselves into compliance. And we got notified the other day, one of the annual compliance measures is indicator 11, which is timeliness of evaluation. So once a student is identified as potentially qualifying for special education, the clock starts ticking and you have 45 days to complete the assessments. And that's one of the indicators where we have fallen in and out of compliance over time. And for the first time in many, many years, we are 100% in compliance for this year, or for previous year, because they used last year's data. So it was, we got a special attaboy email from the Department of Ed letting us know about that. So we wanted to make sure we shared that because it's just a reflection of the good work that we've done and some of the restructuring that we've done. It's starting to pay off in that area.
Can you share with Kathy that we appreciate her, I appreciate her efforts. I know she was dealt quite a deck when she started, so to do it in that time period is pretty impressive.
I will do that. Thank you.
I would second that.
We also got, not in your packet, but just letting you know, we did receive, I think I mentioned at the previous, or a previous meeting, that we had been notified, we had applied for one of the infrastructure grants for security cameras at Cutler. The committee and the commissioner had approved our request pending Governor Council approval, which did come through. So we did receive those funds, and we will be working on the Cutler project over the summer. But we'll start, looking for bids on the equipment and stuff. We'll get that done, and get that done over the summer. So that's exciting as well. Just got back from Nashville, Tennessee, for the AASA National Conference. It was great again. Remember last year, I think I talked about Mary Madeline and James Carville as the final speakers, which was pretty awesome. This year we had Sal Khan, who founded Khan Academy, and which is free online learning for anyone. A lot of schools, including us, have students that'll access Khan Academy for enrichment or for remediation or for extra help. Just Google, it's KAHN Academy, really good stuff. But it was really neat to hear about, sort of the genesis of Khan Academy and his philosophy and his vision. And there were a lot of other great speakers and topics too. As usual, I gravitate towards all of the legal and public policy things. So I got my fill of federal legislation and all of those good things. Also, I shared it with Lisa, and it's on my school Facebook page. So if you go to my page, there's a a little offshoot of superintendents called the singing superintendents. And there's always at least one superintendent who was once a music teacher. And so they will take the helm and they will act as the conductor and director for a group of folks who audition and want to sing. And so this year I was a singing superintendent. The videos are on my Facebook page. We did the Star Spangled Banner and a few other tunes. I think there were maybe 20 of us total, and 2 from New Hampshire. So it was nice to have New Hampshire represented twice on the singing superintendent. So a nice kudos to arts education in schools. The only other thing I have for public session is we do need, we have a field trip, an overnight field trip that needs a motion for approval. It is the annual Key Club Leadership Conference that is held in Massachusetts. It is April 6th through April 8th. I think that's right. It's in Springfield, Mass. I think it's always held there. It's in New England, but it is overnight, so it does require approval, and there will be the requisite number of chaperones for the number of students that attend. This is a trip that we are do combined with Keene High School.
Make a motion to approve?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
And that's all for public session. We will need a non-public under C at the end of tonight's meeting.
Did you catch that, Jeremy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Search update for business administrator.
So we did post for the business administrator position. We've had a number of applicants. At this point, I am fairly confident that at our next board meeting, we will have a candidate to present.
Thank you. Moving on to committee reports. Does education have anything that they need to speak with us about? Betty?
I have a question on the business administrator. Are you thinking interim or are you thinking permanent?
Permanent.
Good.
And you have formed a potential interviewing committee, correct?
The committee has already met and has already conducted interviews.
All right. Now, education. Betty?
Education did not have a quorum,
Okay.
and the next meeting would fall on the 13th, which is the voting day. So our next meeting will be in April, on the second Tuesday at 5 o'clock at the SAU.
Do you have anything for us on the homework policy for an upcoming meeting?
You're still working on it, right, Jeremy?
I can speak to that.
Yeah,
Yep.
please.
So we were at the point where we had a committee, we had done surveys to the community board, parents and teachers, and committee met to kind of rewrite the homework policy to bring a draft to Ed. We brought it to Ed. Ed wanted us to get some more feedback from the community, just to give it a final look over, and the hope was that Ed would vote to send it to policy, and then policy would send it to board. So we're just basically waiting for the process at this point.
Okay, thank you.
But it's a priority. Betty and I talked about priorities moving forward to get that done for next year so we can make sure we're ready to go.
Go ahead, Rob.
I don't know if we sent this to Ed, but the teacher evaluation process, can I get an update on that?
Audrey Saltzman is heading that up, and I anticipate they'll be reporting to us, in May or June?
I think April or May. I believe
April or
it is.
May,
They're moving right along. They've met many times.
Yeah, they've made great progress.
All right, finance and facilities?
Finance and facilities did not meet.
Very loud.
Sorry, I don't know why I'm louder than everyone else. We would meet again, as Betty said, it would be on voting day, so we would not have a meeting in March, and we would have our meeting in April.
And you will have new committee members by that time, and you'll be nominating a new chair by that time.
Okay, thank you.
Policy, you want to update us on your plans?
Yeah, policy, we've attempted to schedule some additional sessions because we have quite a bit of backlog to work through. Calendars are not working for the month of February, and we lost our meetings at end of month in December and January, just between, various meetings and the weather. So we're posted for next Tuesday at 5. I'm looking to connect with the other 3 committee members about possibly starting earlier and just, getting an extra hour or 2 in to try to chip away at some of the work. So we may We may change the time, but for right now, we're posted for 5 for Tuesday.
Okay, that's Tuesday, the 27th.
Yeah.
And did you have any concerns about the joint board and budget committee meeting falling on the same evening as a policy committee meeting?
That's in March, though, correct?
That's the following month,
Yeah,
yes.
it's not a problem.
Okay. Are there any other committees that need to give a report? Good. Results of deliberative session. What I was hoping was to bring you the finalized copies of the warrant articles as they're going to appear on the ballot. They're, as you know, they're really not much different from where we started. The only article that got changed was 2, which is our 3, our maintenance article. And there was some wording added in there for Troy School. So, that's it. And we had a request to add age of some machinery in the trades classes. Yep, go ahead.
So, in the fall, I was able to get a tour of the trade classes, the actual physical space. And as we were walking through there, it was really remarkable to me at how little had changed over the years. Some of the teachers referred to the idea that those very machines that we still have there were the machines that they used. In fact, some of the machines were still are using floppy disks. If you can remember how long ago floppy disks were in vogue or utilized. And I was curious, somewhat, to be honest, astonished that the machines had not been updated. I understand they're extremely expensive, but I'm really wondering, A, if there is any plan to update, whether it be the courses that we have, because that would dictate what type of machinery is needed, but also that space in general, because there actually is funny, funny odd comment came in, the idea that in one section of the room, it's cautioned off because there's gas there, but they don't know where the gas comes from or where it goes to. So it's not utilized. I guess it was an old welding station or something to that effect. And so it occurred to me that I wonder if we're doing or paying enough attention to the trade facilities, classes, and things like that. And I was lucky enough, Ron Fabianski,
Yep.
and another gentleman gave me a wonderful tour. We spent about 2 hours walking through there. But it really occurred to me that that's an area that might need to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
So I had a chance to talk to Ron about, I saw this on there, so I wanted to check in with him and talk to him about this. And, he's got 2 machines in there, and he said one is really obsolete and would love to see it go. So I need to speak with Dave about that after. I wanted to wait until after this meeting to kind of do anything on that, really. And then one is older, and it still uses a floppy drive. I checked with Ron and Neil, and it's been updated as much as it's going to be updated. It's at that point. And he said, of course, he'd like more updated.
So
That's basically the state of it. I do know that there is one machine that he wants out that he would like to see go.
Is this equipment duplicated over at Cheshire Career Center?
I'm not going to say, I believe, there was some talk of that, and I need to find out for sure without totally understanding the machines that we're talking about. I don't want to say yes for sure, but I'll find out.
If the educators in those areas had requests that they wanted to make for the budget, do you feel that they would feel free to make those requests?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Lisa puts it out and says, what do we need?
Yep. Okay. Nick first, and then I think I had Neil, and then...
Yeah, I have one question and one comment. I guess the comment is that you probably, did you do any exploration in the cost of new equipment?
Yeah, it's not, and that's why I said, is there any plan for it? Because some of those machines were $40,000, $50,000 a piece, maybe even more.
Yeah.
But really, I guess one of the questions that came to me, and I'm not a tradesman, nor if you've seen me do anything, I with my hands, it's pretty brutal. But I don't even know that replacing those machines is what we should or should not be doing. I don't know where the future of that section of the curriculum is headed. But I just feel like it warranted some more attention.
It would definitely be interesting to see where that overlap exists between the courses we offer here in those areas and, as Lisa said, the Cheshire Career Center. And I think, was it Keene State put in a new facility there, I believe. They have a decent amount of new equipment.
It meets all their OSHA requirements.
I'm sorry?
It's the OSHA cost at the building that they built just for that.
Okay.
And the machine shops are in it. At Keene State.
Yes. I don't know if we could possibly build a relationship there in some way, but but my main question is related to, so in this shop we have gas lines that come and go. We don't know where they
come from is what I was told, or where they go to.
Okay,
They're capped off.
Okay, and we don't have like active contracts with like Airgas or anything like that, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
We don't have the right guy in the room. Yeah. That's a Dave Lapointe question.
All right, I would like to forward that question to Dave to learn more. That seems like if the person in the room doesn't know where those lines come or go,
I believe it was some old welding lines or something.
All right, well, hopefully they've all been purged and all that stuff, but.
Neil, did you have a question?
Yeah. I agree that the machines are probably old, but what drives them, floppy tape or disk, doesn't matter. Okay, as long as the machine's cutting, it's fine. Okay, the paper tape machines still run. Doesn't matter what drives them. And it would not be worth the money to convert it to a direct drive or anything else because the machine's gonna cut what it's gonna cut.
Phyllis was next and then Winston. Phyllis?
Yeah, I was concerned about is it caution tape, and is there a better divider, and is this stuff
It's been months since I
safe?
was in there. I remember it being yellow tape.
Yellow tape.
Like.
And knowing students, I would want a better situation than that, and to make sure it's safe.
Winston?
You just made my comment. I'm sure the fire department has seen that and should have. If not, I want to know where their eyesight was, particularly if you got yellow tape. The other thing is, I think we very carefully need to watch what Keene is doing right now in their Cheshire Career Center. They're talking about separating the Cheshire Career Center from the high school to make it a separate 4-year program. I think we need to be up to date on that, what they're doing, because that's going to affect our CCC a great deal and how we operate on it. Right now, that's just in discussion with their teams, but that's something we need to watch very carefully. And the other thought I had, just lost it. The Career Center itself has got many programs that our students should be taken care of. And I appreciate what Neil has done in the last week, inquiring why we didn't have any more people up there for the open house. And I think that was addressed in very, very nicely to Neil. I just lost my thought, so we have to go on to the next world.
If you think of it, we'll come back to you. Nick?
I was just going to comment on what Neil said, that just because it's old doesn't, even if it's running on a floppy, if it's using floppy disks for configurations, it doesn't mean it's bad. There's still quite a bit you can learn from an older machine, and sometimes it gives you insight into how the underlying foundations of newer machines work to have that knowledge.
Rob?
So, believe me, I don't know enough about it. My only concern would be that a student goes out and gets a job and doesn't know how to use the machine as properly as, maybe something from the Happy Days era. The second question I would have would be, what type of, what do our numbers look like in those classes? I mean, because maybe it's cost prohibitive based on the numbers, I don't know. I mean, are those pretty populated classes?
We'll know that soon enough. The program of studies is out and the students will start signing up for classes here in the next couple months.
If I may, they're limited to how many they can have because of the number of machines. I haven't been in there in 5 years, but I know there's a set number. They can't have more than that in there.
Bob?
Rob, I'd say this is an evergreen issue. I know Dan Kaufman and Neil were involved in this a year or two ago.
Well, it's more than that.
Well, whatever. Seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
And that one, I think, involved the donation of more modern equipment.
Yeah, that was a
to the
brand new, what I would call a Bridgeport, but I don't know what they really bought.
So, and then the other issue is, and around budget time is when all of this really comes together. When you talk about the number of students in a class around a machine like that, there's 4, 5, or 6. It's the smallest
Yeah, very
class
small. I can't
that
remember what it
exists.
is, it's small.
So when people start talking about student-teacher ratios, those classes are targeted.
Okay.
Now, Jeremy, the disposal of that machine is not going to be free, and you'll let us know if we need to vote something to dispose of the machine, is that right?
Yeah, I will get all the details and make sure that, I communicate with Lisa to communicate through to you
Okay,
about what it's going to take to remove it.
all right. Very good.
Lisa?
Yeah, Nick?
And if we're talking about, I don't know what type of machine this is, but you may want to look into, see what maybe a local scrapper would.
I was going to say, everything metal in this district goes to a scrapper. Nothing gets thrown away if it can go for scrap.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that it may not actually cost the district money.
Right, absolutely.
So it's not like an old television set that weighs 5,000 pounds, and you have to pay for it to go away. Okay. That brings us on to Google Messages. Neil, would you like to speak to this?
I'm getting any more Google messages, and when I do, I forward them to Lisa and Jeremy.
I was gonna say, I haven't gotten an email from Neil in a little while, so.
So, am I to understand that we fixed the problem?
I guess they did.
I didn't know there was a problem.
You also wanted to talk about terms for board members? I think that was you. Yeah.
I think it's.
Was it someone else?
We asked for clarification from Lillian, just on, I didn't think it was
The number of
an
consecutive
agenda
terms?
issue as much as
think it's fair.
clarification from Lillian, who was looking into it.
Yeah, I think it was what you went over at the start of the meeting, Lisa, with what seats were open and who was running for what. So right now, I think there are a couple 2-year terms that have not been filed for, but I think all of the 3-year terms have been filed. And not all of them, but the 2-year terms, I don't think anyone filed for just a 2-year term. I think everybody that has filed for 3.
Very good. Action on the manifest. Betty?
Yep.
I love having you here.
I'd like to move the manifest in the amount of $1,177,246.52.
Second.
Feature.
So, yeah, I think that was Neil. It was the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Scott wants to know if we have the money.
Yes.
I promised Mike I would ask.
Yes, we do.
Everyone should have a copy of the January 8th meeting minutes. Those will be up for vote next. Would anyone like to make a motion on the January 8th public meeting minutes?
I would make a motion to approve the January 8th public meeting.
Second.
So it's Phyllis and Neil. Is there any discussion on these? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Stay.
That was Scott. We have January 16th. We'll start with the public meeting minutes. Several pages, it looks like.
So moved.
So that was Phyllis. Who's our second? Brian? Is there any discussion on these minutes?
Yeah, were they in the packet?
I don't see them.
So mine are several
What was the date
pages
on that?
long. 18.
18th.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm sorry, I was reading the 16th from the agenda. 18th. When did we actually meet, the 16th or the 18th?
Says January
The minutes
18th.
say 18th.
Public and non-public on that date,
Thursday, I
Lisa.
think we
Yeah, it was the 18th, because we had moved because of weather.
Because of the weather, okay. Good. So no discussion? And is anyone still missing them? We have the 18th.
18.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Good. We have some non-public meeting minutes from the 18th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
That was Rob. Any discussion?
Is this for 9:50 PM?
9:50 PM.
Yes.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions?
Abstain.
All right, we'll move on to the public meeting minutes from February 3rd, and then I have some sealed ones that'll come around.
So moved on the February 3rd public minutes.
Second?
And these minutes are of the joint meeting between the board and the budget committee. So I have Phyllis, and then Neil was the second. Any discussion? Nick?
I was at the deliberative session, but I was not present at this pre-meeting, so my name needs to be moved to absent.
I think we recessed and we came back at the end. You weren't present at the end either.
No.
Not for the
No,
meeting.
you had to leave,
Okay.
yeah.
So you got that, Laura?
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to know that he was at the deliberative. That's why I put
No.
arrived during deliberative.
Okay.
Oh. Does that count? Are we technically in session?
I don't know, I was
Do you-
trying
do
to
you-
count everybody.
Do you guys suspend did you guys suspend the board meeting?
We
for-
recessed. Yeah. So you were technically there for part of the meeting.
For the board meeting? Okay. I guess if you want to look at it that way.
All right, and do the minutes clearly state when Nick left? If we could just add that in for clarity. Any other discussion?
Deliveries after.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions?
I guess I'll abstain.
So Nick, Neil, and Scott are all abstaining. I don't know if you caught this, but Scott was present during the deliberative session portion of that, Laura.
Boy, could add him.
He was hiding.
I guess I didn't see it.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
there,
he-
but he was hiding. So he was in and out at the same times that Nick was.
Actually, technically, I arrived before the deliberative session.
Okay, so where would you like me to
I don't think I was not at the pre or the post board meeting, so I think it would be better just to have me out of that. Because I was not at the board meeting. I was at the deliberative session as a resident of Roxbury.
You're a board member. So. I think it is valuable to say which board members were there at deliberative.
Okay.
All right, so what's come around to you now are the sealed meeting minutes from February 3rd, that same Saturday morning. We'll give you just a second to read them, and then when somebody's ready to make a motion, go for it.
She's gonna want them back so you can guard them.
They're not colored paper, and they're not numbered,
Very good.
but yeah, they should come back. You can make a motion if you want to.
Motion to approve as written.
Second.
Ryan and then Phyllis.
Can I third?
Did you get that part, Jeremy? Yep. Nick?
Yes, I was most definitely not present during the non-public session. I would like to have my name removed from and moved to absent. I was not here at all for the non-public session.
Well, no, this
Sealed
is-
non-public
this is,
minutes.
Oh, no, you're right.
Winston?
Great.
Did we set a timeline on the, all it says is the minutes were sealed in public session, but it doesn't say indefinitely, it doesn't say, give a
say
timeline on it?
It's indefinite.
Yeah,
We did do that.
and,
The public minutes say indefinitely.
yep, it's there in the public minutes.
I would like my name placed in absent for this because I was not present for this.
All right, any other comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That's Nick, Scott, Neil. Pass them back.
Count 'em?
All right, does anyone have any
Count 'em?
requests? What's that?
You count them? You know how many I got here?
No? I'm trusting you to pass them back, though.
Yeah, how do you know how many you passed back?
We didn't number them, we didn't put them on colored paper.
Using the force.
We're just trusting you.
Thank you.
Good. All right. What do you folks want to talk about at the next meeting? I sense that you're really eager to talk about the self-assessment.
I have,
Those machines, what he's talking about,
Okay.
at least the caution tape. I'd like to see a follow-up on that.
Go ahead, Rob.
I have had a request from a resident of Swansea in lieu of what has happened in Florida to review our safety policies in the event of an active shooter. So I'd like to hear a report about what our procedure, policy, practice, whatever is.
Can we invite Neil?
We can. We would need to have any of those discussions in non-public.
We should, and that would be what,
It's one, I can't remember, it is one of the reasons. If you're talking about
Yeah.
public safety or security, we would have to
So
do
we'll
that
do
in
that in
non-public.
non-public.
That's fine.
Yep.
Promise to follow up.
Yep.
Can you pass this back? Anything else for next meeting?
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple items.
Okay.
This collection of these documents, as you saw by the thing that happened down in Washington where they turned a document in to get it signed and it was modified. So I think that at least one copy ought to go to our custodians in Swansea to make sure they don't get modified when they get collected, like you could change anything you wanted to on that document now, because nobody's got a copy.
Okay.
Those documents.
I have another item too, when you get bored.
I'm bored. Go ahead.
Okay, I think we ought to keep an eye on the CCC. Lisa's collecting me some data, but there's only 44 kids from our thing going there out of 800. I would like to know what their budget they're getting from the state of New Hampshire that's really going to the school in Keene, and whether we're getting our fair share out of this.
Okay.
And Lisa, if you want to hold back the answer till the meeting, that's fine, I don't care.
I'm still working on the second part.
I know you,
so-
I know you don't have it, that's all right.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Nick?
Jeremy, I don't have the sheet with me, but I believe, was March one of the months that you had listed last year about release of testing data for academic progress? There was some...
Yeah, so it'll have to be late March because we won't have any results before then.
Okay.
Everything's kind of been changed with the new testing schedule.
Okay.
But
And I appreciate if that has to go through education first, but I'd like to have some of that data come into the board.
Okay.
One more oddball. Can we get a Dave LaPointe answer on what that gas is in that room?
Yep, that's on here.
Yep.
Winston?
Maybe Lisa knows the answer, or Jeremy. Have we signed that agreement with Cheshire Career Center?
They have not sent us a final
I
agreement.
think we need to look into this because they stalling because of what they're discussing right now. Because we haven't had an assigned agreement since, was it 2013?
We'll follow up on that. Thanks.
And I'm very concerned about the drop in numbers because we started out with more than 44 this fall. And now we're down, I think it was 50-some odd students.
I think it was closer to 70 in the fall.
And this disturbs me. And also, what is our ratio now?
I'm looking into that. That was a question that Neil had asked me to, so I don't know off the top of my head.
All right, anything else?
I could just add, the CCC lady that I contacted was very accommodating. She'll run any tour you want.
That was CCC Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa Danley. Yeah, she's very good.
There's a lot of Lisas around here.
It says Super Lisa.
Oh.
That was an oh my gee, another Lisa.
Good, I think we're all set with that then. We'll take second public comments. Is there anyone who wants to comment? Can I just ask, out of curiosity, if we have anyone in the audience who wants to be a board member, just checking it out to see what it's like, if it would be fun? Hurry, all right.
Right in.
I wish.
We have an open spot.
All right. Moving into non-public, we have a need for 2 non-publics, I believe.
Do it all in one.
Okay.
All under C.
Okay. So we'll just give the cameras a chance to break down, probably 5 minutes. How long do you guys need? 10? Okay. Small break, guys.